What's going on? Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Off the Schneid preview series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their roster, schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Don't forget to check the description for links for the Off the Schneid social media and interact with me directly. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com, as all roster and depth chart graphics are straight off their site. If you've never been, go check them out immediately. I use their site for all NFL, fantasy, and betting purposes, and there's a link in the description for their site. Again, do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, but enough of that, let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. Taking a look at the New England Patriots starting at quarterback. Cam Newton for now is the incumbent kind of starter. It's hard to say. I mean, realistically, I do expect him to start the season as the starter, as the QB1 on this team. Obviously, they didn't draft Mac Jones in the first round for him to sit for too long. I think there's potential that he sits for his entire rookie season. The reason I say that is this offense is going to operate extremely differently between Cam Newton and Mac Jones. They're basically completely different offenses. And the way that it's built right this second, I don't think it's extremely smart to hand the keys over to Mac Jones just yet. Just because of the weapons that they don't have at wide receiver. That's how I see it. The way that it's built right now, I think Cam Newton gives them the best shot to win. I really do, just for this season. So, maybe you start Mac Jones towards the end of the year, three games, something like that. I don't know, whatever, final game. We'll see. It's not a rush, Patrick Mahomes was drafted 11th overall, I believe. He sat his entire rookie year, played the final game of his rookie year, and then, I'm nowhere near saying that Mac Jones is anywhere near the quarterback that Patrick Mahomes is. I'm just talking about draft capital wise, and what should happen, in my opinion. If I'm being honest, I think that should be what happens. Gives them a chance to learn all that kind of stuff. And the biggest reason why is these offenses run completely different with those two quarterbacks. So there you go. Move over to running back. They've got a stacked room like they usually do. It's always a room to avoid, in fantasy football, that kind of a thing. There's spot starts, but you never know when to start them. Damian Harris is back. He led this team in rushing yards last year, 691 in only 10 games played. Averaged 5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns only. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why you avoid these backfields, especially with a guy like Cam Newton. But, maybe in Dynasty, or I don't want to make this a fantasy show, but, with Mac Jones, your running backs are getting a lot more touchdowns. Right? Sony Michel's still there, 449 yards, 5.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. So again, the narrative continues. And then Rex Burkhead, who's now gone, 4.1 yards per carry. And James White's still there to catch the ball. The guy that I actually quite like is Ramondre Stevenson. I do really like him, along with Damian Harris. It seems like Sony Michel's kind of getting buried, even though he still was very serviceable last year. He was dealing with some injuries as well. So we'll see, as long as, or who can stay healthy all year. I think that probably would be Ramondre Stevenson. I have no reason to think that he won't be. But we'll see. Realistically, it's going to be that four-headed, five-headed, if you include Cam Newton, in the red zone, running the ball. And, yards wise, he's still 592 yards for Cam Newton, 12 touchdowns. So in my opinion, that's how you win this, you win games. And I'll get there in a second with how I think they're going to win games this year. Tight ends are in a very good spot. They obviously brought in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, which was, again, indicative of how I see this offense running and why I think Cam Newton's the starter this year. That's a big reason why, is those 2 tight ends. Dalton Keene and Devin Asiasi, 2 third-round picks 2 years ago. I didn't particularly agree with either of those draft picks. Asiasi might be a guy, but realistically, they are kind of now buried. So not a big deal. It is what it is. Wide receivers, again, another reason why I think that Cam Newton's the starter. Jacoby Myers is probably the most talented guy there. Kendrick Bourne, I don't mind. And I think that, again, the way that I think they're going to run this offense, and I'll get there, he's a great guy to have. So is Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, Jacoby Myers he knows the offense. He's similar mold. All these 3 guys are very similar in what they can do. The only guy that's really different is N'Keal Harry, former first-round pick, who is basically, labeled as a bust right now, unless that changes this season. I think he's a guy that fits more how you want to run the offense with Mac Jones, if that makes sense. If he is a guy, maybe he hasn't, really gotten a shot. He was only with Tom Brady 1 year as a rookie. Rookie year, I can give him a bit of a pass there. Year 2, he obviously struggled, but it's a different offense. Realistically, I don't expect N'Keal Harry to be on this team much longer, if I'm being honest. Again, with that bust kind of moniker labeled on him, it is what it is. So, those are the 4 guys that are really difference makers in the passing game as, wide receivers. But realistically, it's just the 3, and maybe even just Jacoby Myers and one of Bourne and or Aguilar sort of thing. I think they run obviously a ton of 2 tight end sets, a ton, probably the most in the league. It wouldn't make any sense to not. You know what I mean? It wouldn't make any sense in the world to not run more 2 tight end sets than anyone else in the NFL. Move to the offensive line. It's still in a good spot. Very much in a good spot. It's actually improved with Trent Brown coming back. Isaiah Wynn, Trent Brown is your bookend tackles. Michael Onwenu, David Andrews is still there. Shaq Mason is still there. Been there for quite a while now. Still getting the job done. Ted Karras has, been, has left, come back. Alex Redmond, former Bengal. So they do have a couple pieces. William Sherman comes in the 6th round this year's draft. So let's get to it. How do I think this offense runs and operates? Josh McDaniels is very creative. He's a very, very, very creative offensive mind. Probably the heir apparent head coach here. If not here, he will absolutely get another shot to be a head coach somewhere. So how do I think this team runs? I look at I'm not looking at the 49ers offense and saying it's going to be a carbon copy or even close to it, but that's the example that I'm looking towards. A lot of play action, a lot of bootlegs, a lot of 2 tight end sets. That's what I see, and a lot of running the ball, more running the ball than the 49ers even. With those 4 guys, you realistically have 3 running backs that are absolutely, as long as Stevenson is that, they should all be reliable. You can rely on Sony Michel. You can rely on Damian Harris. And, from everything that you've done scouting-wise, that you can rely on Ramondre Stevenson. And then you can rely on James White in the passing game. So there's a lot of known factors here, right? A lot. Cam Newton does have to, win a couple games with his right arm. He has to throw the ball a little bit more. You got to, realistically, I don't think Cam needs to be, MVP Cam Newton, that's for sure. If he throws for 3,200 yards and 16 touchdowns, 10 picks, that's absolutely fine with how much I suspect that they run the ball. So, maybe ease up on the goal line carries for Cam and give him to some of those big body running backs. And Ramondre Stevenson's a big boy. I don't think it's extremely necessary to put Cam Newton in that much danger. Yes, you obviously have an insurance policy with Mac Jones, but will this offense, run as smoothly with Mac Jones? I don't particularly think so with the way it's currently built right this second. So that's how I think the offense is going to run. I run the ball at least 30 times. Plus, realistically, plus 30 to 35 times a game without question, unless you're completely out of it. But And furthermore, to that point, why do they run the ball so much? This defense is very, 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 very good. Might be one of the best, if not the best, potentially defenses in the game. They brought in just a ton of guys. They did some things that I, said that they should do going into the draft. If you go watch my before the draft team needs video of the Patriots, I literally said if they could get themselves a Grady Jarrett type interior rusher, then that's going to make this team an extreme amount better. What did they do? Go out and draft Christian Barmore in the second round. Christian Barmore was a guy I had as a first round talent, second round pick, and he could be that guy. Absolutely. Not that they didn't quite have it before, but some of those guys are getting a little older. So let's move over to that defense. Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo are the two kind of co-defensive coordinators. Gerard Mayo obviously was a player for Bill Belichick, Steve's dad, for a long time. And they've been doing a great job holding it down there. They bring in Matt Judon. They were bottom, 5 or 6 or something at getting after the quarterback last year. Obviously, they made moves to improve that. They brought in Matt Judon. Who else did they bring? They brought back Kyle Van Noy, drafted Christian Barmore. Anthony Jennings was a third round pick last year. Henry Anderson comes in. Devon Godshaw, I believe, came in this year as well. Where's Lawrence Guy? There he is. I was looking for Larry Guy. He's still there. He's still very good, just an athletic freak. Jawan Bentley is a leader now on this defense, calls the defensive plays. Chase Vinovich is there. Raekwon McMillan. Josh Uche, second round pick last year. Dante Hightower still there. This unit is pretty ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous, and I haven't even mentioned the back end of this defense yet. So all of that, they are going to be very tough to run on. In my opinion, they're going to be very, very, very tough to run the ball against. And pick your poison, because they're going to be very, very, very hard to throw the ball against. Right? If you look at the back end of this defense, JC Jackson, obviously, I'm sure teams reached out to him. This team only put a second round tender on him. If I'm the Jets, especially, being a division foe, I send JC Jackson a blank check and tell him to write down a number, and I pay him that amount of money. And then I burn that second round pick. I don't care. I think JC Jackson is that good. Obviously, I think he probably wanted to stay here, and I can't particularly blame him. With the pedigree the Patriots have and the team that they have, they're not far away from making a very serious Super Bowl run, and it honestly could happen this year. There's the potential there. So JC Jackson, obviously Stephon Gilmore, former defensive player of the year, is still there for now. He's upset. He wants more money, which is fair, but he's getting older. It's a tough situation. We'll see what happens. I expect him to be on this team this year. Jalen Mills comes over from the Eagles. Very good pickup there. Jojuan Williams is still there. Jonathan Jones is still there. They're in a very good spot. They're very, very dangerous. And then Devin McCourty's still there. Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar, second round pick from last year. It's a dangerous defense. Very, very dangerous defense. That's why you run the ball, you control the clock, you play very good defense, because they will, and you win a lot of ball games that way. You're going to win a lot of ball games doing just that. So let me know what you think in the comments about all that. There's a lot to chew on there as far as the whole team is concerned. I think that, they're going to win a lot of games, I think. I mean, realistically, for what I projected, you might, contradict what I'm saying right this second, but if they can just run this is a playoff team. I guess that's what I've been getting at. This team is built for the playoffs. Absolutely built to be a playoff team and built to win in the playoffs. So all they need to do is get there and see what happens. You're going to be in a good spot. They're not going to get blown out ever. This team the Patriots are not going to get blown out once this season. I promise you. So There you go. A lot to chew on. Let's bounce over and see what I predict them to do in 2021. So you see the low, high, my there. Obviously, I was just kind of talking them up as being, world beater and everything like that. And 10-7 is not some extremely impressive number, extremely impressive record. I don't project that they win this division. I think they're probably the second best team in this division behind the Bills. They're right, they're very close with the Miami Dolphins, in my opinion. It's just that this defense is very, very, very good. I think if they're 10-7, they probably make the playoffs. It'll be close. I do project the Patriots to be a playoff team. Whether they go deep in the playoffs, it remains to be seen. But I think, like I just said in the roster breakdown, I think that this team is built to be a playoff team and built to compete in the playoffs and give literally any team a run for their money. 4.5 to 1 on your money to win this division. I wouldn't fault you for taking that, especially if you're obviously a Patriots fan. I wouldn't fault you for taking a shot there. It's not out of this world that they win this division. I just think that the Bills, offensively are that good and they've improved defensively. But it's not crazy. I would probably take a shot on the Patriots over the Dolphins if I'm a neutral, which I am. But I think that the Bills win this division. So there you go. Let's plow through the record here. I think they're going to go on a run to start the year. Miami in week 1 in Foxborough, I think they get that win. It's a division game. You want to get ahead, which, their first 2 games are division games. They're going to want to get a good start. And the teams that they're playing, especially the Dolphins at home, very winnable game. And then the Jets, I don't care where they play the Jets, but especially that early in the season against a rookie quarterback, the Patriots are going to get that win, absolutely. Then in week 3 against New Orleans, if it were in New Orleans, I'd give the Saints a better shot. But being in Foxborough, I'm absolutely taking the Patriots there. Absolutely. I think their defense is just way too good for this, for the Saints. I think the Saints kind of regress. They don't have a ton of weapons. And with what the Patriots do have on defense, that's going to be a tough game for the Saints. I think that's going to be a tough day for the Saints. And then week 4 at home against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I have the Bucs winning that game. I just think that they are too good all around. Revenge game for Tom coming back to Foxborough. Obviously, it's primetime game. Great decision to make it the Sunday nighter. It's going to be a good game. That'll be a good game. That'll be a very, very, I think it'll be a low scoring game for sure. But a good one, for real true football fans. That'll be a good game to watch. Week 5 against the Texans. I don't care where they're playing them. They're going to stomp on the Texans. Their defense is just way too good, and that offense is not. So they are going to beat the Texans pretty badly, I think. And then at home against the Dallas Cowboys, that's another game where they could take a loss just because, their defense has improved in Dallas and their offense is very, very good. So if they can score and just, bend don't break on defense, I think the Cowboys can get that win. I know it's in Foxborough, so it's going to be a much tougher, game for the Cowboys to come in and win. But, that's a low, high, my type of game. At home against the Jets, they get that win. On the road against the Chargers, I think that the Chargers can get that win. It's at home, brand new stadium, should be pretty rocking, fans in the stands. That offense is very good. They have a lot of holes on defense, but they do have some difference makers, and they do have some playmakers in LA. So I think that that's a game that the Chargers can pull off and get that win. On the road against the Carolina Panthers, that's a tough one. I mean, on the road, if this were in Foxborough, I'd say they win that game. On the road, I still think that the Patriots have the edge in that game. That's a low, high, my as well. I think the Patriots have the edge regardless of where it's being played. If it were in Foxborough, I would give them more of an edge and say they win that game. But, being in Carolina, that team should be improved. They have made a ton of improvements on defense. Theoretically, they've made improvements on offense. Christian McCaffrey hopefully is back full health through the whole season. Should be an interesting game, that one. And then at home against the Cleveland Browns, I give the edge to the Cleveland Browns. I just think that they are a very, very, very good team. Very well built. Offensive line is great. Myles Garrett's a potential defensive player of the year. They've improved everywhere. They have depth everywhere. I like the Browns to come into Foxborough and get that win. Thursday night game, short week on the road. Luckily, it's against the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Patriots go into Atlanta and get that win. At home against Tennessee Titans, that's going to be another good one. That's going to be, there's a lot of toss-up games here, and it just depend on game script is what it's going to come down to. If it, or like special teams, something like that, like a special teams return for a touchdown, pick six, something like that can completely sway all of these games. All of these teams that I'm talking about, they both have the ability to swing the games in their way, in their, towards them winning the game. You know what I'm saying? Like the Chargers have defensive playmakers. The Carolina Panthers have defensive playmakers. The Tennessee Titans have defensive playmakers. You know what I'm saying? They can absolutely, either team can win these games. They're gonna come down to game script, and they're all gonna be fun, interesting games to watch. So the Tennessee Titans, that's a low, high, my. On the road against the Buffalo Bills, I got the Bills winning that game at home. It's gonna be very interesting in Buffalo, but I have the Bills, in New England, but I have the Bills winning that game at home. Great spot to have your bye week, week 14. It's the latest bye week. That's a great spot, especially for a team that I do believe is a playoff team. They should be looking like they should be sitting there in week 14 thinking we're probably a playoff team as long as we go and get these wins that we need to get done. You know what I mean? They're probably sitting there, 8-5, maybe something like that. 8-5, 9-4, maybe. If they're 9-4, they're extremely happy, which is very, very possible. 8-5, they're in a good spot, and they know they got to go out and get a couple more wins. They know what they got to do, and they will absolutely know where their season is by their bye week. They'll know exactly what they need to do. Coming out of the bye on the road against Indianapolis Colts, tough game. That's a tough game in Indy. After the bye, with this defense, I think I give the edge to the Patriots. It's close. Another low, high, my. Again, there's the same things I've been saying. It's a low, high, my game, and it's a bit of a toss-up. But after the bye, with their defense, I give the edge to the Patriots. Boxing Day, week 16 against the Buffalo Bills at home. We'll see. Again, another low, high, my game. I do think the Bills are the better team in this division. I think the Bills win this division, but I'm not saying that they can just waltz into Foxborough and get that win, in December. That's a tough game. So another low, high, my one. At home against Jacksonville Jaguars, they get that win. They're a better team than the Jags, absolutely. Then on the road against Miami, that could be one team's in the playoffs, the other team's going home. Absolutely, that could be what that game decides. I don't think it'll decide the division, but I do think that it'll decide one of those teams are going to the playoffs and the other is not. And being in Miami, that's going to be a tough one. So we'll see. I mean, maybe both teams get in. Maybe Miami's not that good of a team and they don't have a chance anyways. But we'll see. We'll see how it looks. That's a big game, I feel like, to end the season. So there you go. I mean, let me know what you think in the comments. I think that I don't really need to say much more. I don't need to repeat myself. I think this is a very good team. They're built for the playoffs. I do think they go there. Let me know what you think in the comments. There's your breakdown for the 2021 New England Patriots.